Morning, and thanks, Justin, for the introduction, for having me here today. So, I'm going to talk about how YouTube has reshaped itself over the past few years, and how, in doing so, it's starting to reshape television right alongside it. So, for those of you who haven't heard of Enders Analysis, we're an independent subscription research company covering media, entertainment, mobile, fixed telecoms across Europe. So we sit at the intersection between audience, technology, and policy, analysing how people consume, how companies respond, and how regulation keeps up. YouTube is now the biggest streaming service in the US, with over 12% of viewing on the TV set, and that trend is being mirrored in the UK. A quarter of YouTube viewing takes place on the TV, as opposed to mobile phones or tablets, and that's up from 15% in 2017. So this switch, and what you can see on the chart, this switch from a slightly bigger screen to a slightly bigger screen has been accompanied by a shift in genres, with an almost straight switch in viewing from music to entertainment between 2020 and 2024 across every single market in this dataset. YouTube is drawing clearer distinctions between its services, focusing its music efforts on its subscription product, YouTube Premium. And that makes sense from a financial perspective, given that the three big music labels likely receive a better take rate than YouTube's standard 55%. So Spotify, for example, remits 70% to the labels. So it's in YouTube's interest for music to form a relatively smaller proportion of its overall mix. And changes to the genre mix have also been accompanied by changes in duration. So over the same time period, YouTube videos have become longer and closer to TV length in every major market that we've looked at. Given that viewers are conditioned to watch longer programs on TV than on their TVs, given viewers are already conditioned to watching longer programs on their TV set than on devices, it's kind of logical to expect YouTube to cater to this, meaning that videos served to users would rise in line with the growth of consumption on the TV set. So over the last 4 years, the median video duration, excluding shorts, has grown substantially. So in the UK, it's gone from 7 minutes, 8 seconds to 12 minutes, 23 seconds. That's a 75% increase. And that puts us right alongside France and the US, which saw similar jumps. Japan and Brazil started from longer baselines, so their percentage increase is smaller, but the pattern is universal. And this is attributable to both a decline in the proportion of short videos, that's 1 to 10 minutes, and simultaneously significant growth in longer videos, 20 to 60 minutes. And that's a duration bracket that places these videos firmly in the TV zone. Again, there's a really clear financial incentive at play. Longer videos offer the potential for an increased dwell time and therefore support a higher ad load. Creators are able to add mid-roll ads to longer videos. So this chart shows where YouTube's trending videos actually came from. In other words, which countries are exporting content into other countries' trending feeds. We've looked at 7 different markets here, and throughout this work, I'm focusing on the share of videos appearing in each country's trending feed rather than total views. And that's because views on YouTube are global. A video watched anywhere counts everywhere, which makes it impossible to isolate and attribute audiences within a particular geography outside of YouTube themselves. So this approach might slightly overstate the prominence of local viewing, but it's the best consistent proxy we have for what's surfacing nationally, and therefore what audiences in each market are likely to be exposed to. So on the chart, we have the source country on the left and the trending market on the right. And in almost every country, the lines loop straight across: Brazil to Brazil, France to France, India to India. So despite YouTube's global platform, its viewing patterns are overwhelmingly local. People mostly watch creators from their own markets, those who share their language, references, and culture. But there are 2 clear outliers, as you can see: the US and the UK. And the US is obviously the biggest exporter of content, kind of full stops. That's not especially surprising. What's more striking is that the UK is the only other country with a visible web of outbound flows, those green lines reaching into the US, Germany, and India. So globalization on YouTube doesn't mean homogenization. It means a few powerful hubs like the US or the UK exporting into otherwise local ecosystems. And this just shows you a little bit more detail. So in almost every market we've looked at, YouTube's trending feed is 80 to 90% domestic. But in the UK, only 39% of trending videos are from UK-based channels. The rest are imported. That makes the UK one of the most internationally oriented YouTube audiences anywhere. It's unusually cosmopolitan in its viewing habits. It's that same openness that makes British creators visible abroad, but it also makes the UK market highly permeable to outside influence. So where does that viewing come from? Around 45% from the US. That's far more than any other source, and it's roughly the same scale of cultural pull that we see from US television. The rest is a long tail from kind of English-speaking markets, Australia 3%, Canada 3%, and smaller traces from India, Germany, and South Korea, each around 1%. So let's take a look at it by genre. We can see where the UK still holds its ground and where it doesn't. So the blue bars here represent the share of videos on the UK trending feed that come from UK channels split by genre. The red dashed line shows the 50% threshold, the point at which British content makes up the majority of what's trending in that vertical. What stands out immediately is how few categories are actually sitting above that line. UK content dominates in only a handful of verticals. Autos and vehicles, where specialist channels like CarWow and Top Gear drive international visibility. Sports, which remains strong due to domestic leagues and local fandoms. And to a lesser degree, news and politics and people and blogs, where UK creators tend to localise commentary or specialise in personality-driven formats. So this is where the imbalance really shows. On the left, you have imports, the share of videos from each country appearing in the UK's trending feed. And on the right, exports, UK origin videos appearing in other countries. So the UK does export widely, but at a slightly smaller scale relative to the US. 8.5% of US trending videos come from UK channels, Germany at 5%, France, India and Japan each around 1%, giving the UK a kind of modest content trading surplus with a few countries. So how American is UK YouTube? It really depends on what you're watching. The reality is, at the high end, film, animation, how-to and style are completely kind of US focused. That's not really a surprise. These categories are where the US has structural advantages. Massive production budgets, Hollywood IP, and a global influencer ecosystem built around LA creators. Education, science, and gaming are similarly tilted towards US creators, reflecting the global reach of institutions like NASA and MIT and the dominance of US gaming channels that operate almost like small studios. The US leads in genres that are easily translated across markets, while the UK holds onto categories that are grounded in local identity or expertise. So how are broadcasters faring in this environment? Their presence is concentrated in sports and news with a smaller but steady footprint in entertainment. News and sports are maybe a slightly less natural fit for UGC, being expensive to produce. The domestic Premier League rights alone are 7.7 million per game in the current cycle, while the BBC spent nearly a fifth of its total TV content budget on news and current affairs in the last financial year. And broadcasters are trusted and credible sources of information delivering verified, fact-checked, accurate news. Given the risk of disseminating misinformation, a channel's designation as an authoritative source is weighted more heavily by YouTube's algorithm than traditional signals like relevance or popularity. Having said that, broadcasters' share of trending news videos has declined since 2020, despite YouTube growing as a platform for the consumption of news and current affairs, possibly the result of increased competition from news publishers and social-first publishers like Politics Joe. That's in YouTube's interest. Its business model is best served by a large number of disorganised video suppliers, allowing it to dictate terms as the far stronger negotiating partner. Broadcasters' share of entertainment is understandably much lower. The genre has lower barriers to entry, and broadcasters' desire to bring audiences to their own platforms where they can be monetized means their content has, historically at least, been restricted to short and mid-form, although obviously that's now starting to change. So if we take a closer look at news on YouTube, YouTube does afford prominence to traditional outlets. Broadcasters as a category type as a whole made almost 50% of news videos featured on UK trending in 2023. US broadcasters, however, featured more prominently than UK broadcasters, that's the 21%. And partially we think that's because US cable news is more partisan, more sensationalist, and therefore in an online context, more engaging. They're subject to less stringent rules and regulations than the UK broadcasters. Also, more popular videos tend to be recommended more. US broadcasters get more views due to the US's size and global importance, making their content more likely to be recommended, especially to an English language audience. On the plus side, though, UK newspaper publishers are more prominent than their foreign counterparts. They've long been more partisan and more sensationalist than the US, and that translates well to cutting through on a video platform. News on YouTube doesn't have to be entertainment focused, though. The most featured YouTube native and social first publishers within the set that we've looked at are Vox, TLDR News, Politics Joe, Johnny Harris, former Vox journalist. These all involve substantive reporting, while Politics Joe and TLDR often feature long, in-depth interviews with experts. So, if we flip the lens, what does the UK export? What does the UK put out and how does that perform? So this is the US market. And what we can see in terms of the types of British content that break through in the US are gaming, sport, and entertainment. Viewing to UK-originated gaming videos in the US is overwhelmingly driven by one genre, sandbox builder or Minecraft-style creators. These are creators like Hermitcraft, Minecraft SOS, Stampy, and Grian, and these are channels built on collaborative worlds, long-form storytelling, and a kind of distinctly British humour, polite chaos, deadpan camaraderie, and an obsession with process. In contrast, competitive and shooter content, they kind of blue slice the pie. Call of Duty, Fortnite, Valorant, only makes up about a quarter of UK gaming exports, and that's a sharp reversal compared to the US, where the esports and shooter genre dominates. On the entertainment side, our entertainment is viewed in content in US trending is split almost equally between creator collectives and legacy broadcasters. About 38% of the UK entertainment content trending in the US comes from creator collectives or personality-led channels like Sidemen, Beta Squad, Nico or Milana, or Chicken Shop Date. These formats travel incredibly well because they're personality first, they're conversational, fast-paced, and culturally legible to a US audience. The other big slice of this pie comes from legacy broadcasters or official media brands. For the broadcasters, it's nature programming alongside talent-led factual entertainment and select documentary strands. Think Spy in the Wild, Planet Earth, Inside the Factory, or Gogglebox clips. That slice also includes publishers like Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, or Cosmo. Think Vogue's Life and Looks, or In My Bag, or Celebrities Playing Most Likely To. And then finally, there is sport, which for the UK really means football. So around a quarter of the UK's sports exports are from official club channels. Arsenal, Man U, Liverpool, City, they've all built YouTube operations that function like media brands in their own right, releasing match highlights where they have the rights, player interviews, tactical explainers, all with the production polish of broadcast, but the cadence and tone of YouTube. Broadcasters also feature heavily Sky Sports, TNT, BBC Sport, and that comes from traditional institutions adapting well to platform-native formats, clips, moments, and talk segments that tap into online football discourse. And then about 15% of this category is fan-led media, channels like AFTV, The United Stand, Tifo Football, or The Overlap. It's high-quality UGC, The United Stand, an independent Manchester United fan channel, includes live graphics for its watch-alongs, breaking news live streams, audience comments and opinions, and real-time match data. Taken all together, that means over 60% of all UK sports content trending in the US is football-related in some form, whether it's institutional, player-led, or fan-made. That's a huge cultural moat. Boxing and combat sports account for about 8%, led by crossover personalities like KSI and Tommy Fury, while motorsport, golf, and fitness and lifestyle make up the remainder. What makes it work is the full stack. Broadcasters, federations, clubs, and creators all feeding the same attention loop. It's one of the few genres where traditional and creator media have genuinely converged, and that convergence is exactly what's powering its global scale. YouTube is a global ecosystem, but with intensely local patterns of viewing. And the UK sits in this really fascinating middle ground, both a major exporter of culture and one of the most open, internationally influenced audiences in the world. Some of our biggest exports, gaming, sport, entertainment, work precisely because they combine the collaborative, personality-driven side of the creator economy with the professionalism and storytelling heritage of traditional media. In other words, it's not about YouTube replacing TV. It's about YouTube absorbing its DNA and redistributing it globally. Thank you so much.